guys, welcome back to my channel. So I am sitting in my car right now because, oh god, Zoe's sleeping and I don't want to wake her up. So you can see she's back there. So I do this all the time. Like, she'll fall asleep in the car and she needs a nap, but she will not sleep in her crib, I swear to God. I hope you can hear me. She will not sleep in her crib, so I will sit in my car for as long as she naps for. And I'll just like play on my phone, or I'll do my makeup, or like whatever I can do to occupy myself while she sleeps. And I am just sitting in my driveway. So as some of you guys know, my oldest, Lilia, is on a Disney cruise with my parents, and she will get back tomorrow. And I am just missing her so much lately, and I know part of it is like pregnancy hormones, and I've just been crying a lot. And last night I stayed up like really late just crying, and I wasn't really sure why, but I know that part of it is because I really miss her. And her song just came on my Pandora, The Girl by City and Color. I always think of her when I hear this song, and so I just kind of got this crazy idea to do this vlog for you guys. I'm sorry I keep checking on Zoe because I'm afraid I'm gonna wake her up. But I kind of just want to talk about how I found out that I was pregnant with Lilia whenever I was 18 years old. And some of you probably know a little bit of my backstory about Lilia and my relationship with her dad and how we co-parent, and we have a wonderful co-parenting relationship right now. I seriously have absolutely no complaints about how it is right now. But if you watched, and I will link this video down below, if you watched my video on Lilia's stepmom, I talked a little bit more about the struggles and like some of the ugly parts of my relationship with Lilia's dad. And so I just kind of want to do this video to talk about how I found out that I was pregnant at 18. So I dated Lilia's dad for about 4 years off and on. He was my high school sweetheart. We started dating whenever I was a sophomore in high school. And I did actually graduate early. I graduated after my junior year, and I did not even decide that I was gonna do that until the second semester of my junior year. And I just kind of like wrapped up my whole high school career in my second semester. I took all of the senior credits that I needed and all of the extracurricular credits that I needed to graduate just really quickly in one semester, and I graduated early. And I did not do that because I knew that I was pregnant. I actually did that because I was being bullied a lot in school. And that's probably a whole other story in itself. I can do a whole video on how I was bullied in high school to the point where it's actually kind of an emotional story. But I did decide that I just was done and I couldn't handle it anymore. And I graduated early after my junior year. And I started going to community college, and I wanted to go to a university, but because I was graduating early and I was still so young, I wasn't 100% ready to just jump into the university scene just yet. And I decided to go to community college for my first semester of college, just to kind of like get my feet wet and see how it was, which it was kind of a shock actually, going from high school to college, because high school was really easy for me. I used to skip school a lot, and I wasn't always in all my classes, but I didn't really need to be. I still got straight A's, and I graduated with honors after graduating a whole year early. and it was a breeze. And then I got into college and it was kind of like a shock at how different it was, that I actually had to be there and I actually had to pay attention and do my work in order to do a good job. So after my first semester of college, I was put on academic probation because I think I failed 2 classes, and that was a shock in itself. I'm used to getting really, really good grades in school, and so that was kind of hectic. But at that point in my life, I was doing a lot of partying, and I was, you know, drinking and doing some drugs and stuff that I'm not 100% proud of. And but I was still with Lilia's dad, and I was trying to take the birth control pill, but because my life was so hectic and just really sporadic at the time, I was not doing a very good job of taking it correctly, and so I made the decision to go ahead and get the Depo shot. And so I scheduled the day to go into my gynecologist and get my Depo shot, which was supposed to be the first day of my menstrual cycle. So I had my period and I went in and I got my shot, and they gave it to me, and I waited, I think they made me wait 10 minutes just to make sure that I didn't have any adverse reactions to the shot, and then I left. And I was under the impression that I was on birth control, and I was careful. They told me to be careful for at least 2 to 3 weeks after getting the shot, if not longer, just to, you know, just be careful because it was my first shot and everything else. And so I was careful, and I left. And prior to getting the shot, actually, whenever I scheduled the Depo shot, I was asked about the Gardasil shot. And if you're unfamiliar with what Gardasil is, it's basically a vaccination against cervical cancer. And I declined the shot because I am not personally at risk for cervical cancer, and I did some research on the Gardasil shot, and I came up with a lot of horror stories, a lot of lawsuits against the vaccine. And since I wasn't at risk, I went ahead and declined having that shot, and I signed a contract basically saying that I was refusing the shot. And it was signed by me, and it was signed by the gynecologist nurse practitioner, not my gynecologist, but the nurse practitioner. And they had that on file in my record and everything. And so I went ahead and I scheduled my Depo shot. And I think Zoe's awake now. No, she's going back to sleep. Awake, sleep. She's awake. I think she's awake, but she looks really drowsy. Okay, so I got my my Depo shot scheduled, and then I went and got my Depo shot and blah 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 blah. And so I left under the impression that I was on birth control. Well, I guess fast forward to a month later, and I become very, very sick, and I think that I have the flu or some form of the flu or some form of food poisoning or something. I mean, I am vomiting, I can't get out of bed, I can't eat anything, I am just extremely sick. And so that is my first pregnancy symptom, but I had absolutely no suspicions of being pregnant because, as I mentioned, I thought that I was on birth control. Well, I am very sick for like a week straight, and it does not go away. And I tell Lilia's dad, oh, good morning, sunshine. Sobo. Look at this. She's wakey. It's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I'll finish this in a little bit. Okay, so we're back home now, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish my story. So I'm really sick, and I tell Lilia's dad, of course, that I'm really sick, and he is insisting that I take a pregnancy test. And I'm just like, no, that's stupid. There's no way that I'm pregnant. That's a waste of money. That's a waste of time. That's not what this is. So he's continually insisting that I take it. He goes out and buys the pregnancy test, and he comes home and he's just like, take this right now. So I do. I humor him and I take the pregnancy test, and I go back to the couch. I lay down because I feel like total crap, and not 2 minutes later, he comes rushing in with the test, and it's one of those clear blue digital tests, and sure enough, right there on the screen, plain as day, it says pregnant. And my whole world just stops, and I am honestly panicking, thinking about everything that you can think of. I'm wondering how I'm gonna tell my parents. I'm wondering how I'm gonna tell my grandparents, which I think I was honestly a little bit more worried about telling my grandparents than I was about telling my parents that I was pregnant. And I'm thinking about my future and all of my options, and I'm thinking about abortion and adoption, and I'm thinking about the fact that I literally just got accepted into Texas State University, which was my dream, and everything that I had planned for myself, and now kind of realizing that that might not happen for me. And I'm thinking about my future with Caleb, if we even have a future, and everything that we've gone through up until this point, and what this means for us, if he's gonna stick around and be with me, or if we're gonna stay together for the baby, if we're gonna actually make things work, if he's even gonna stick around at all. And just everything is going through my mind. Everything I'm going through right now and having to go through for 9 more months now has just been confirmed that I'm going to be going through some shit for 9 months. And I'm thinking about abortion, which I did rule out very quickly because I know that I wouldn't be able to live with myself for the rest of my life knowing that I had done that, just wondering what if I hadn't made that decision. And I have absolutely no issues with anybody that chooses to make that decision for themselves. That is like 100% up to you, in my opinion, but I personally couldn't go through with it. Adoption, I didn't think that I could go through with adoption, especially, you know, only being as far along as I was and dealing with everything that I was dealing with, and then to think about going through that for 9 months and then having the baby, which I had not experienced yet, but I had heard some horrible stories about childbirth, and just imagining going through 9 months of pregnancy, pushing a human being out of my body, and then handing that human being over to somebody else. I did not think that I could actually go through with that. So I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I decided to change all of my future plans or anything that I thought that I was going to do with my life, and I really had no idea what my future would hold now with this new chapter starting. I obviously did not decide to go to Texas State University. I think I could have probably gone to school and made it work, but I was very scared, and I was already kind of scared about going to a university. And so imagining going to a university with being pregnant and then having a newborn, and that was just like way beyond anything that I could process. So that wasn't the route I took. I did go back to community college, and I went to community college for a little bit, and then I went to technical school. I actually got my technical diploma and became a pharmacy technician for a couple of years. But anyway, that's a little bit in the future. Let's backtrack a little bit. So I found out that I'm pregnant. I'm freaking out. I call my gynecologist to set up my first prenatal appointment, especially because I was as sick as I was not able to hold down any food. I wasn't able to do anything really. I felt like I was completely bedridden. So I called to set up an appointment, especially just to make sure that everything is okay with the baby. So I let them know that I'm pregnant. They're walking me through the process, and they asked me when my last menstrual cycle was, and I didn't have the date, so I let them know to check my chart because it was the day that I came in for my Depo shot. This is where things get really interesting. So the lady asks me to hold, and they put me on hold for a really long time, and I am talking like 15 minutes on hold, to the point where I hang up and I call them back. And I am just like, did you forget about me? What is going on? I've been on hold for a really long time. I was just on the phone with you. You basically hung up on me. And come to find out, they did not give me my Depo-Provera shot. They gave me the Gardasil shot, which I very clearly refused and signed a contract saying that I did not want. So I was not on birth control. I was not protected. I just wasn't on birth control. And I had been given a shot that I had clearly refused to have. So that was really interesting. And that is honestly a whole other story, but long story short, I ended up going through a lawsuit with that gynecologist office, and I did sue them for malpractice, and they paid for all of my prenatal visits, and they paid for my hospital bill for myself. They did not pay for the hospital bill for Lilia. And there are so many details that go into that story, and if y'all are actually interested in hearing the entire story on that lawsuit, leave me a comment below, let me know, and I will elaborate a little bit more because I don't want this video to be 20 minutes long explaining everything that happened with that. That was a very interesting portion of my life dealing with that situation. So I continue to see that OB for the remainder of my pregnancy simply because they were paying for all of my prenatal visits, which I was 18 years old. I could not afford to have a baby, and I really needed that at the time. Desperately needed that. So yeah, I did decide to keep the baby, and I went to community college super pregnant, and then I had her, and I tried to make it work with her dad for a little while. It did not work out though. Very shortly after she was born, we decided to split up, and we started our co-parenting relationship, which had its ups and downs as well, and that is a whole other story also. So many stories. And so yeah, and I got pregnant at 18. I had Lilia by the time I was 19, and I knew that it was going to be hard being a teen mom, but I had no idea that it was going to be so hard. And it has definitely just been a roller coaster since I had her, and she's now 6 years old, and I'm telling you guys, I would not change it for the world. I would never trade her in for any of the plans that I had, any of the things that I thought that I was gonna do with my life. I am not gonna lie, sometimes I wonder what would have been if that never would have happened to me. And to be honest with you, I don't even care. I think my only regret is that I cannot be as lazy as I want to be all the time because I'm a mom. but I think any mom can relate to that. I don't care how old you are. So yeah, so that is my story, my wonderful story about how I found out that I was pregnant at 18 years old. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you'll have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments below. I will answer any and every question that you might have pertaining to this. If there's anything else that y'all are curious about that I did not cover in this video, because it is a whole lot of information, please feel free to ask me and I will fill you in on anything else that might have gone on during that time, because it was a crazy time for me. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe before you go, and I will see you all from my next video. Bye guys.